Hi, this is Jeremy with Digi International Tech Support, and in this video, I'll be talking about Digi's SureLink feature for the DAL operating system. This video will focus on SureLink being used to detect wireless WAN, aka cellular or mobile-based internet access failures. Note that SureLink may also be used for other portions of a Digi device's network, for example, wired WAN, internal LAN, or VPN tunnels. What is SureLink? SureLink maintains reliable connections. It automatically recovers any portion of a Digi device's network, making poor or unstable networks good and good connections great. What does SureLink technically do? SureLink supports persistent IP connectivity via a combination of settings. These settings can, for example, automatically restart an interface and/or reboot a Digi device when certain conditions that are indicative of a present or future issue are met. These conditions are based on network connectivity tests. These tests, called test targets, can be based on the status of an interface, pings, DNS queries, or HTTP/HTTPS GET requests. How to review and interpret default SureLink settings / expected out-of-the-box behavior. Generally speaking, the default SureLink settings are recommended as they've been thoroughly tested. Carefully changing the default SureLink settings could improve performance and should be done with caution, as settings that are too aggressive, untested, etc. can result in stability issues. By default, SureLink is enabled for IPv4 for the device's WAN interfaces. Using a Digi EX15 device as an example, to review the SureLink settings for the cellular modem interface, using the device's web UI, go to System, Device Configuration, Network, Interfaces, Modem, IPv4, SureLink. Test targets are network connectivity tests that send packets, which either pass or fail, depending if the respective target responds or not. By default, there are two predefined test targets. One which tests the interface status, in our case the cellular interface, and the second target tests the DNS servers that are configured for the interface. Alternative test types may be used and are listed in the test type dropdown. We see that SureLink is enabled for IPv4 for the cell interface. Restart interface is also enabled, meaning the cell interface will be restarted if the predefined SureLink connectivity tests fail. The idea behind the setting is that if we have reason to believe restarting the cell interface manually may restore connectivity, we can automate that using this setting. The restart fail count value is 1, meaning the cell interface will be restarted after just one connectivity test failure. Reboot device is disabled. If this were enabled, the EX15 would reboot if the connectivity tests fail. If reboot device and restart interface are both enabled, reboot device will take precedence. With the exception of the Digi 6300 CX model, rebooting the device inherently reboots the cell modem. The interval is the time between connectivity tests, in our case 15 minutes. The success condition is the test target result condition used to determine if connectivity has been established successfully. By default, this is set to all test targets pass, as opposed to one test target passes. As there are two test targets by default, the success condition will be dependent on the two test targets both passing. The pass threshold is the number of times the connectivity tests must pass continuously before the interface is marked as working. In our case, the cell interface is marked as working after the connectivity tests pass once. Failed attempts is the number of times an individual test target's test must fail before the target is considered down. In our case, each of the two test targets must fail 3 times before that respective target is considered down. A target is considered up if the test passes just once. The response timeout is the maximum amount of time the device will wait for each individual test response. In our case, the EX15 will wait up to 15 seconds for responses to each of the 2 separate tests. Note that when SureLink is configured for cellular, SureLink tests are only run if the cellular modem is connected and has an IP address. So what if the cell modem is connected but doesn't have an IP? That's where the SIM failover option comes into play. It can be used to attempt to recover a cell modem in this condition by automatically switching the active SIM slot, or resetting the cell modem, or even rebooting the device if no other SIM is available to switch to.